Let's start off by talking about what Manley Brothers of Indiana Incorporated is, kind of what your products and services are, and how you're affiliated with the oil industry.
Well, we've been supplying the oil industry for many, many years. Frac in our previous incarnation back in the 1980s when we used to go resin sand, we supplied resin sands to the oil industry as well as silica. And right now we're a little bit more simple and we provide primarily just silica sand. And you would call that frac sand.
Frac sand, sure. And I must have cut you off earlier. I apologize. We have the owner of the company. Is that correct on the line with us right now?
That is correct, yes.
Did you start the company? Is that right?
No, the company was started by two brothers back in the 1950s, and they started a Troy Grove operation. Plus, they had one in Hanover, Wisconsin, and they expanded. Basically, started up a Michigan operation, which was in Bridgman, Michigan. The company grew. It got took over in the 1980s by a company called Hepworth Ceramic, which is an English company, which why I have a strange accent. And then we got sold off in the early 1990s, and my father and I purchased the company from the English entity.
So,
actually employed by the English entity.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about fracking over the last 10 years. You know, you guys are obviously an integral part of it with the fracking sand. How much of your business has changed over the past decade since kind of the shale revolution? It's been around since the 50s, but I mean, over the last decade, it really took off. Talk to me about the last decade of your particular industry within oil and gas.
Well, back 10 years ago, we were supplying frac sand in reasonable quantities, but not anywhere near the level of the last few years. We were primarily a foundry and glass supplier, heavily into the foundry industry. We had ancillary industries that we also ancillary businesses that were entirely foundry based. In about 2007, the shale industry was picking up, and it was primarily a gas market, or natural gas, 40/70s and some 100 mesh, and it was just fit in our wheelhouses, right in our groove. We made 40/70s, we made 100 meshes, and a small amount of 30/50s. We weren't really a 20/40 plant, which was that was up to then. There was vertical wells and vertical fracs were where it was at in the frac industry with 20/40s and 30/50s and 16/30 grades, and we just didn't ever have them within our portfolio
because we mine from something called the St. Petersburg sandstone, and it's naturally more. It's actually finer than some of the other formations in Wisconsin and Illinois.
So as the industry changed, we looked at our Wisconsin operation, or looked at Wisconsin as being a good place to operate for both grades. We opened our Wisconsin mine, just the wet pit, in 2007, and put a wet plant down there and moved material south and processed it in Illinois. And we then opened in 2011 the processing plant in Wisconsin. All the while in Illinois, we were developing that plant and sort of adding onto it, and as the volumes got bigger and bigger, and the demand got more and more, Illinois has continued to grow. And what we noticed is that frac takes up a huge portion of our business when it's busy, and when it's quiet, things go really, really quiet around the plant. Our industrial customers have kept us going all the way through. They've paid the light bill and kept the operation going. market is subject to its own whims and foibles. It's either up or down.
Being joined by Jason Love and Paul Salt of the Manley Brothers of Indiana Incorporated. I was always told that the certain shape and size of the frac sand has a lot to do with, what oil companies want, that sort of thing. Does that come out of I guess, what happens with the sand once it's extracted from the earth? Does it go through a mining process, any sort of refining process, or does it go straight to the well site? Can you describe the process of when it comes out of the earth to the well site?
Sure, absolutely. Our sand is mined as a stone. It's a very soft stone. It's fully consolidated. It breaks down. We break it down using hydraulic hoses and hydraulic mining. We pump it up to our wash plant where we separate it from its cementatious agents, which are primarily kaolinitic clays. The sand is then, in most operations, it sits and dewaters for a while from your wash. It's the best way to do it because it's more efficient. It's picked up then and dried in a rotary dryer or a fluid bed. And at that point there, what you've got is the sand is naturally a round grain, competent whole grain particle. There are ways of treating it within the process if you don't have that, but you can never really make the sand grains once they're angular grains that come out of the ground. You can't really make them rounder, not economically. You can, you spend an awful lot of money on it doing it, but it's economically it would be very expensive to do it, and it's not an economic option. So you wash the clays and you wash the cementatious agents off it, and if you need to, if there are other mineralization on the surface of the sand grain which detract from its properties, there are ways to be able to treat it. Treat it or basically frost float it off, chemically treat the sand. So there's ways that you can process it to make it enhance its characteristics, but you can't really change the characteristics of the sand an awful lot and maintain an economic product. Then once it's dried, we put it through screens. Screens are basically wire meshes that stop the coarser particles falling through and allow the finer to pass. Those make it into the grades that we commonly use sell to the frac industry.
Jason Love with Vice President of Sales, and Paul Salt, the owner of Manley Brothers of Indiana Incorporated. Certain plays, now, every single shale play is a little bit different. The Permian's different from the Bakken and the Tuscaloosa, that type of thing. I know there's different sand grades, that sort of thing. I think that's what they're called, sand grades. Is there any particular shale play that's best known for any particular sort of sand grade, that sort of thing, or does it all really depend on when you get inside the shale play? It even gets more specific, so it's actually specific to each well. Did you follow my question there? I'm not sure I even made sense there.
Yeah, and I'll take this part of it. What you're basically asking is out of the different shale plays, of the different mesh sizes or different grades that are used in those sizes, and yes, they are. The biggest thing is that it all depends on the company's completion program and what their production plans and their completion plans are, and also in historic completions of those wells. At one time, in the Haynesville, like for example, in the Haynesville shale, the thought process was that you needed to use very strong ceramic product that needed to be just for the high temperature and the high pressure situations that those shale rates are, that those shale characteristics had. And in the Permian Basin, a lot of that was the 2040s, the 3050s, and it depended on whether or not it was a horizontal well or a vertical well. But nowadays, just within the last, I would say probably 2 years, most of the shale plays have switched themselves to a 40/70 or 100 mesh a type of play. And the reason that they have is because of just basically purely transport mechanism. It's cheaper to pump a 40/70 and 100 mesh with a polyacrylamide slick water than it is to add gel and other chemicals to make a linear gel or to make a cross-link fluid to transport the material into the formation to actually hydraulically fracture the rock itself. So it kind of an answer to both the questions is yes, there are different mesh sizes that are used in different basins, but typically what you're seeing just for the last 2 years has been purely 40/70 and 100 mesh.
Okay, so how about this? When you kind of refine the sand and then you ship the sand out, I would imagine there's got to be some handling and that sort of thing that gets involved, or is it perfectly fine when it shows up? Is there anything that needs to be done from the sand manufacturer or the sand pit to the well site in terms of that whole handling process? Is there anything involved there?
Nope, just a rail car typically.
There's a rail.
It's just a transport mechanism, either the rail car or a barge or a truck. However, it's handled from one place to another, but there's usually no handling from if it's on a rail, you put it into a rail car that is shipped to a transload. It goes from a transload or transfer station to a truck and onto the well site.
So that's got to be pretty easy. I mean, there you're talking about just the railroad, which has been around, I believe it was a backbone of the economy of distribution. So that seems pretty easy. Did that get? Did you guys have any issues with that when there was kind of the backlog when there was such a glut with crude oil being done there? Did you guys get impacted by that at all when the rail was backed up like that?
I think everybody got impacted by that. Everybody that shipped anything via rail, the grain, your agriculture, building materials, aggregates, anything that's shipped via rail took a backseat to crude by rail because of just the simple fact that there was so much money in it at the time that the price of oil was $140 a barrel, and a unit train of oil was worth millions of dollars. Not let alone just a unit train of sand that's worth a few $100,000, but or building materials or grain or whatever the case may be. The railroads are, and you mentioned it, the economic backbone of the country, but they're also a monopolistic, non-competitive type market, and they can set their rates. So they enjoyed some very lucrative rates with the crude by rail, and they wanted the other products, the other industrial products, to catch up with that. So,
how about when it comes to hang on one second here. Excuse me. How about when it comes to the downturn, the recent activity that happened? A lot of people were trying to figure out ways to adapt with the low oil prices, that sort of thing. Did you guys have any advice for anybody out there? You guys are still in business, so you don't have to give away your secrets or anything like that, or disclose your finances or even some of your strategies. But any kind of 5,000-foot view advice you might have for anybody who kind of is still maybe trying to figure out how to make it through the downturn?
Find yourself 3 to 5 customers and keep those 3 to 5 customers for the rest of the life of your company.
Yeah, be very good. But always plan for the bad times and be happy in the good times.
It's as cyclical as this business is, and the customers that are in the business also understand the cyclical nature of it, and they typically will do business with the people that got them to where they're at now. I mean, we've got customers that we've had selling frac sand. I've sold Paul's product for the last 10 years, and I've had customers, same customers, dealing with the same people for the last 10 years. And you'll get you'll get others that come in and want to pay more money for it, or others that'll, they'll take more volume, but it's typically, we stick with the people that got us to where we're at, and we take care of them and they take care of us.
Any final thoughts you might have? Anything that needs to be reiterated? Anything that we forgot to mention? Any summarization that you'd like to do? Make sure you mention your company, how people can get in touch with you and everything. But the floor is yours.
Right. Well, Manley Brothers is a privately held company. Everything that we do is very transparent. We manufacture a very good quality silica sand from 2 different places. We're always looking for different opportunities with different customers. If anyone needs any sort of pricing, they can contact me. My name is Jason Love at 214-918-0522, and I can put them in contact with the owner of the company, or if they want to deal directly with me, we have several other salespeople that work with us and logistics folks that work with us as well. They're kind of too infinite to mention, but we have a wonderful set of people and a wonderful attitude toward helping our customers.